welcome you to stewardshipofwealth.com. We believe it doesn't matter if you earn $5,000 a year, $50,000 a year, or $500,000 a year. You can be a better steward of your wealth. And today, we're really blessed to have in our studio today Kia Gamble. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing? Hello,
Good,
everyone.
good. Yeah, last time we talked to you in our studio, it was back in Mother's Day.
It was Mother's
And
Day, yes.
yeah, that was awesome. So we
Yeah.
got you back, and it's getting ready to go into the holiday season. And we're glad you're here because we have some questions for you when it
Okay.
comes to holiday spending. What are some of the things you do in terms of saving, spending tips that you use during the holiday season? I know coming up for me, I remember some of the best Christmases I had was actually not getting presents, but just an experience. And I
hmm
remember living in Buckner, Arkansas one Christmas, and we just got a bag of candy. That was it. A bag of candy was all we got for Christmas. But I remember my mother going outside and saying, "Get some snow." It was snowing off the car. We got some snow, and we put some milk in the snow with some sugar. I remember that today. That was the best. I'm like 4, 5. I was a little kid. I'm like, this is something. But when we talk about holiday spending, what are some of the practices you use in terms of spending and saving tips that you can share with our audience today?
So, the way that I approach spending is probably not like most people. I do not like to spend money on material things just for the sake of it. So there's some people that feel this obligation that because it's the holidays that they must buy something for someone, and they make a list of everyone that has been a part of their life, and they say, okay, I've got to spend X amount of dollars. And so you go into debt or you just exceed your capacity by feeling obligated to buy gifts. So the first thing I do is I have no obligation in that, and that's probably because gift giving is not my love language. What I do like to spend money on is, like you mentioned, experiences, but for me, it's being with family. So right now I'm in Alabama and I'm spending the Thanksgiving holiday with my daughters, with my family, with my dad, my mom. I just spent the day with with my grandma. And so for me, if I have to spend money, I'm going to spend money being with people and being with those that I love. And so I budget for that to make sure that I can accomplish that. Try to, of course, get tickets as reasonably as possible. But we then decided, well, my daughters decided we weren't even going to do gifts this year because when people say your present is your presence is a present, I really take that to heart. And when I say that to people, I mean it. And hopefully people understand that my presence is a present to them. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
my
good.
tip for the holiday.
Right.
Now, if
Now,
you live in a family where you're going to be talked about for not bringing a gift, that might not work for you.
well,
You got to know your audience.
let me ask you, how did you get to that point? It sounds like were you always, you don't, or did you grow to that point? Was there a time where you felt this obligation? And what was it that made you say, hey, you know what? Why am I doing this?
Well, my thinking never completely changed because I always felt this uncomfortable feeling spending money just for the sake of spending money. Because I don't like to part with my money that way. So when you say, I need to buy you something, I don't know what you want. You haven't told me what you want, or you're a person who has everything. So now I'm just running through the stores trying to find something just to find something. And then when they open the gift, it's like, oh, okay. And it's anticlimactic, or people buy me gifts because they know they're going to see me, and what they give me is not something that I really can use. And to me it felt pointless. But when I had times in which I spent time with people and it was a connection, that felt more genuine. And as I began to be around people, and I think as you get older and you, like when you have children, you have to do the presents, like something. But as people got older, it was, why are we doing this? And it was kind of like the people I'm around, everyone agreed, we're good.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
I think of a Christmas that we had as a family in Gulf Shores one year. The Collins were there. I think you came in.
Mhm.
And that experience of being on the beach,
Mhm.
everybody coming together, just enjoying that experience is really nice.
And
So
we
yeah,
still talk about it. In fact, for when Sharice is having her birthday, she was like, "We need to do that again."
yeah,
Because no one can remember all the presents that we got throughout the years, but every last one of us can remember that trip. We have the pictures, we have the memories, and for the girls who are younger, it's being able to have moments like that. And so
yeah,
yeah, we all agree that was a wonderful, wonderful Christmas.
yeah. Moments like that are just priceless. Um,
Mhm.
Now, talk to me about a time you experienced God financially intervening in your life. You knew that, hey, there's a situation going down. I don't have the money. What am I going to do? Have you ever had a situation where a miracle happened? Can you express one of those situations or share one of those?
I'm not sure if I could call it a miracle, but I will say it was definitely God intervening. And so this was a couple years ago when I was in between jobs. I was in a job that I just did not work for me, and I needed to walk away. And when I decided to walk away, I kind of had an idea, like I was getting severance and everything. So I had an idea, but I really just didn't know how everything was going to come together because at that point I was single. And so I didn't have someone that I could lean on to say, okay, we're going through this, until I get a job. So the thing that God worked out for me was the ability to be able to tap into funds that I had set aside before for emergencies. And so so that's why I say it wasn't necessarily a miracle. But at first, I didn't even think I could do it. I wasn't even sure what I was going to do. But as I thought about it, and I realized, you know what, this is why I made the decisions I made, and I made the hard decisions earlier in life, so that when a time like this came on, I was able to make it through. And it wasn't exactly what I needed, but God managed to let it stretch until when I got a job, I was able to then get the right job. And it was enough so that I didn't have to accept the first job that came, because I wasn't in dire needs. But the little bit of money that I was able to tap into, God managed to help that stretch and made it through. And so when they say that God is going to take care of you, I strongly believe in that.
Yeah, yeah. I got so many stories. And sometimes I tell this story and people just, they look at me like cross-eyed, like, really? You're telling this story again? This is one of those times where there's a God. Um, I had to make a decision. I believe in tithing and giving back to the church and sowing seeds. And I remember that if I was going to tithe a true 10% of my income, that there was not going to be enough money to put in my car to fill my tank up to my next payday. And it was one of those God moments where I said, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm just going to trust God. So we gave our tithes, and my car was on E in Kia. I drove my car literally for the next 3 days on E. It was a miracle. I drove to Decatur and back on E. I tell that story because it just really strengthened my faith. But guess what? 2 weeks later, here I am, pocket full of money. My car runs out of gas right in Oakwood Avenue. I learned that God is not going to do for you what you need to do for yourself. Now, here I am, got money, and won't take the time, too busy put some gas in my car. So
Mhm.
there's two sides of that. God will bless you, but once He blesses you, and you got the knowledge, you got the
Mhm.
opportunities, you got money. You need to be a wise steward of that. And
Right.
that's what's one of the lessons I've learned. And I share that story with people because it just strengthened my faith. So now you can't stop me from tithe. I will tithe until I can't
Right.
tithe no more. That's just the way it is in my mind because of that experience. And I can talk about other times where God just really intervene in terms of the money. When you mentioned about stretching your money,
Right.
Ardella and I, we don't know how we raised 4 kids on the money we were making when we first came here to Alabama. It was just
Yeah.
crazy, but God stretched that little money and he continued to stretch that money, and we made it through. And I think back of how, I mean, a date nights, we would go to the mall, get these little chocolate bars of chocolate. They dip it in chocolate and bananas, and I think we are like 50 cents. Ardell and I would do that once a week. That was our date night. It was the best date nights in the world. I remember those. It was the best time. We were
Does she
struggling.
say that though, or would she have wanted like maybe her own banana or her own chocolate, like today?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think back then, young couple in love, sharing. You know, marriage is one of those things they say for good and for bad kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're struggling and you can go through that with someone, it just makes it that much
Mm,
better when you come through the other side. But I think
agreed.
when she looks back on it, we both agree that God brought us through
Agree.
that. And now our faith, our intimacy has grown because of that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the other question I wanted to ask you, because you're here today, and I just really have a lot of respect for you
Mm-hmm.
as a boss, as an entrepreneur, as a
Mm-hmm.
businesswoman, as a leader. And you have just done some amazing things with your life. Yeah, I brag on you all the time. Parents do that. They like to brag on their kids when they're doing well. There's probably not a week that goes by I'm not telling somebody that you're killing it. You're a boss. You're taking care of business. But can you talk about some of the lessons that maybe you taught your children, or you are going to teach your kids about finances? Some of the things you think that would
Mm-hmm.
be helpful.
Sure. So I have two daughters. One is about to be 24 in a couple of days, and the other's 26. So whatever lessons they're going to get pretty much have been provided to them. So I'm going to go from the angle of what lessons did I teach them. And I actually talked to my daughters before doing this because I had in my mind what I thought I was teaching them and
Uh-huh.
wanted to know what did they actually get from me. So I guess going back to what I was saying about gifts, I'm not a very materialistic person. And as they were growing up, I we would get things, but not much. But I made sure that if I was spending my money, there were certain things I was going to spend it on. So that was going to be on a good education. So they stayed in a private school, and I chose a house that did not require us to commute too much because for me, which meant that we ended up with a smaller house than everyone else because I didn't want to go out in the middle of nowhere to get the big house because then I felt like our entire life was going to be commuting. And for me, being close to my daughters, to be involved in their school meant a lot. And so, if we lived far away and we were working over here, then it just felt like our whole day was going to be about driving around just so that we could have a big house. So I was trying to use those kind of practical things, and in raising them, I learned financial peace through you all. And so I use those lessons of financial peace in giving them allowances. And when they had the allowance, letting them know to save some of it, that they needed to tithe some of it as well as they could spend. And so as they got older, I would, before I gave them money, would say, "What is the budget that you have?" And when they were younger, it's here's the amount you need to just do some fun stuff. And then as they got older, what are the things you need to spend your money on? And make a budget, and then I will give you that for a 2-week period, a 1-month period, whatever that is. So just really trying to teach them managing, the budget. And so the thing that looking at this right now that my daughters told me that they really got is, I guess, the one where they said was practicality, and that we made practical decisions all the time. Some of the practical decisions, like I mentioned, was in the house that we chose, not spending more on a house than what we needed, buying reliable cars and cars that would last. We didn't just buy a new car just to get a new car. For the most part, our cars lasted until they didn't work anymore, which would be anywhere from 10 to 15 years. And then we would go get another car. And so we would make sure that we paid off cars. And so and then because I knew I had to spend money for them to go to private school, then whatever else I had, I would spend money on experiences and letting them be able to travel, making sure that whatever the school offered they could do, which would be music lessons, singing lessons, being involved in the various clubs, being able to travel to see their family here or just whatever kind of things. And so it was that type of thing. But when we did have to buy something, I wasn't trying to be cheap. We weren't going to go to the dollar store because if we're going to get something, we're going to get quality that's going to last. So, my kids love going to Costco like me because they have like the best warranty and you can get good quality, you can take it back. And so it's not about, well, how cheap can I get it? What's the best quality if I'm going to spend this because I don't want to have to go buy this again in a month or a year for something that should last a longer time. And so just trying to, make the wisest decisions as possible. So that's about it. And then looking at, looking at your financial situation and just trying to make sure that you're always reevaluating where you should be spending your money and not being stagnant and just saying, okay, we're only going to save, we're going to spend, like knowing the time of life you're in. So
That's good.
sometimes, yeah. So that's kind of the
Good,
things they learn.
good
And a lot of
stuff.
it I got from you all too, I will say.
That's good stuff. Now, one of the things that I really feel that's important is the relationship between work and money.
Hmm.
I think that's important. I think young people need to learn that if you want a lot of money, you have to get a job to where you can make money. There's some type of connection between work and money. I was I was a child, my parents, they always let us work around the house breaking leaves, and they would give us money, a couple dollars. As soon as I got my money key, I was run to the store and spend. I mean, we spend it. I remember my mother telling me, "Look, money doesn't go on trees." I'm like, "What is she talking about?" You spend your money too fast. So people like me, there's people like me that spend their money. As soon as they get it in their hand, they're thinking it's gone. And then there's people like you that think I need to have a plan. I need to have you know, and it's
No,
you
no,
get
I
to
spend my money.
yeah,
It's gone.
it's gone.
But I just, yeah, I spend it. I spend it on experiences.
It's gone. Well, I think so, yeah. If a person's like me and you don't have that proclivity to save, my wife Ardella, she is a saver naturally.
Mhm.
She's gonna save money. She doesn't spend her money. I mean, you have to, Ardella. We need to do something. This money just sitting there. Whereas I'm already, the money is spent. I'm gonna spend it. It's already spent. And so people like me have to really learn to say no to themselves and stick on a budget. That's one of the things I learned in Dave Ramsey. He changed my life because I really started to listen more to my wife. Because if I listen to her, and she said, we can do these things, but we can't do it all right now. Now
Right.
you got to wait. Learning to wait and plan together was something that people like me that have a tendency to want to spend all their money, in one place, one time. You need somebody in your life that can help you.
So I think what I do is to really develop the discipline is I take advantage of that mandatory saving. So like at my current job, we have an ESPP. So that's and then I have a 401k. So I have a good 10% of my money is going before I even see it. And so as opposed to and then making sure that I'm putting my money all the whole risk stuff that we should have with being fully insured for all of those things, making sure that's good because you don't want to have a problem there. Now once I get past that level, I probably am a little bit more like you, but I at least know that I need to have that discipline up front, um, because I'll give it away, give it to whoever. But yes, it is nice to be able to have someone that can tell you to save. But if you save and don't ever enjoy life, then what's the point?
What's the point?
So
Yeah,
it needs to be a
hey, I
balance.
feel
It
you.
needs
I
to
feel
be a
you.
balance. Yes.
Yeah, I feel you on that. And I think another thing that I learned through Dave Ramsey was uh, what kind of things am I reading? I started reading more books on financial management, and you're already in that setting. That really helps, I
Mm,
think, in terms of discipline. When you're in a financial community, whether insurance, accounting, investments.
Hmm.
When you're working with numbers, that helps your understanding of the fact that all these companies, they got a budget. They're not just spending their money; they're planning ahead. How they're
Right.
going to spend their money. So you get used to seeing these things and realizing that you've got to make changes. Also, if you run your life like you would run a business. We're going to plan before we start spending money. And it's not that you can't get things. It's just let's plan it. Let's put it on paper and let's plan to do it.
Right.
And the things are more enjoyable. When we paid off all our debt, first we paid off our consumer loans, $70,000 and consumer loans, cars, stuff like that. We did that in 4 years. And then once we did that, we were able to pay off our house in the next 3 years. So if we just took that money that was going
Hmm.
towards all this consumer loan and just put it towards the house was paid for. Then once we
Right.
got the house paid for, we just took that same money and we just started investing. And we just been doing that ever since. We don't even think about it anymore. It's just we save and invest, and we're going to be saving and invest the rest of our lives because that's just who we are now. And I'm like, wow, I'm a different person.
Yay.
I don't even have the desire to do it now. It's like I'm thinking, what am I going to leave my grandkids so they remember me? I'm thinking grandkids. I'm like,
Wait,
how
what about children?
no, I'm here for them. They get to see me. They get to see my examples. They're learning, and so that. But the grandkids, they don't really get the chance to spend the time with you. So you want to really impact them. And I think
Hmm.
somewhere in the I think it's in Proverbs somewhere where it says a man will leave something for his children's children. So that's the biblical principle. You want to have so much wealth that I take care of you guys, but the grandkids, you're thinking about
Got
long
it.
term. And a lot of people don't think long term. We as a community, we just think ourselves. And I just know that getting to that point where I'm thinking long term, it's
Yeah.
taken me decades to get to this point, and I wasn't always here. But now that I'm here, I want to be able to share uh, this insight with other people because if you can just learn from others and you don't have to do the same thing yourself, then you don't have to learn the hard way. What are some lessons, Kia, that financial mistakes that you've made that you've had to learn the hard way? You made a decision, say, why did I do that? And then you had to live through that decision. Is there anything like that you want to share that you
Yeah.
might be able to help someone?
When I don't remember if I told you guys this in the last one. If it's a repeat, then I'm like my dad, I repeat stuff. But when I got my first job, I had decided again I wanted to I felt like I deserved a nice car. And I had that piece of paper that said I hadn't even did I had start the job? I don't know. I just remember I had a piece of paper that was saying that I have a job and I'm making X amount of dollars. So it was a Saturday night and we're like, we're gonna go get a car. So it's nighttime. I look, this car looks beautiful, and it was kind of impulsive. And we go not to a dealer, but to a used car lot because I was told I don't buy new cars. So I go out there, car looks beautiful. It's a Hyundai, and it was, top of the line, leather seats, everything was working. So when you go from having a really, a hoopty, I was driving a Chevette
uh-huh.
before, and now I'm gonna get into a car that's, got power windows and all this other junk. So I buy it. And and I was thinking I should probably go and get financing through the credit union. But the guy said, don't worry about it. You should get it now. You look good. You look good. You feel good. Get the car. So I get the car, and he says, and if you can refinance it with your credit union on Monday. But, hey, get the car now. It might not be here. Just do it. I bought into it. I go to the credit union on Monday, and they said, oh, absolutely not. I was like, what? They said, this car is not worth that much. You go and you tell them no. And I said, oh, I already bought it. And they said, well, we're sorry, we can't help you. You're now stuck with this. And you overpaid on that car.
Mm,
And so I learned not to be impulsive. I learned that it's better to be able to do your research, especially, and that's how I became that practical person. If I'm going to spend a lot of money, I need to make sure I have all the facts. So I'm going to do the research on what kind of car, how much I should spend, what's the best way to buy it. Do I
mm,
buy through a credit union? Do I, so now am the best at buying cars. The last car I got was through Carvana, where I had like did all the research. I don't like to be, I guess taking advantage of those people. But what I thought was a good purchase, I realized back then you shouldn't buy Hyundais because within a couple of months, the engine, what is it, the head gasket blew and
Mm,
the paint was peeling. And what looked good at night, once you saw it during the day, was not the same. And
yeah, yeah.
so being able to like really evaluate, sleep on big decisions. So I went back to that car dealership and I said, I want to return this car. Actually, it might not even have been that long. And they said, no, 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 we don't want that. That's your problem now. And this thing that they, sold me on of this is so great, I realized they were feeding to my ego. I felt that because I had a new job, I should drive a nice car and all this stuff. And I was being impulsive and I was trying to go for the look and not really, so I ended up getting, after that car was done, I traded that in and got a Honda Civic, which didn't have all the bells and whistles, but it was a solid brand new car that actually, I was able to, that met all my needs. And it said, you are a beginner person in your career, as opposed to me trying to buy a car that gave some image. And I'm thinking a Hyundai is supposed to give me an image. Again, the ignorance of it all. No, no shade to those who are buying Hyundais. We're talking about 30 years ago.
Yeah, they're pretty popular now. You see
Oh,
them
they're
all over.
great
They were
cars
good.
now.
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever that year was, the guy was like, "No, we don't want that back." And I think it was just a bad car. He sold me a limit. But what they had done was they made it look pretty. They polished it. They gave it that new car smell. But they knew there was something wrong with the engine and with whatever. And there was no warranty. There was none of that recourse for making a bad decision. So those are the things that it took one time, one
Right.
mistake that lasted for many, many years, because when I had to go and get my other car, I was upside down on that new car. It took me 10 years to get out of that. So you won't catch me twice on those kind of mistakes.
Yeah, yeah. One thing I learned when it comes to Carfax, if get a Carfax, that's going
Mhm.
to tell you if that car's been in an accident, how many times it's been in an accident, how many people own that car, if it's a
Mhm.
used car. That's the best thing you could do. If you ever buy, you talk about research, yeah, get a Carfax. That'll save you a lot of drama when you're buying used cars and headaches as
Right.
well. If you get that, but you got to pay for that up front. But once you
Mhm.
get it, you can look at it and it's like, I don't want this car. I'd rather spend $40 and say no than to not look at something really shiny. And they said everything that glitters ain't gold. They really
Right.
mean that. So you just got to be able to walk away from things that look really good to you.
And I'll
Um,
say this, the other thing that has always been something is I will spend the time and wait to have it inspected. So if it's a car, then it's going to be going to my mechanic that I trust and say, "Can you look at this?"
that's good.
However that needs to be, and if it's a good dealership, they're going to either, you know, um give you some kind of warranty so you can bring it back, or they'll let you check it out in advance. And when I bought my house, I paid for whatever the full appraisal inspection was. No, appraisal is what they do, the inspection to say, tell me everything that's wrong with this house or right
Right.
with this house. Because yes, some people are like, well, why would I want to spend a couple $100s or something,
Worth it.
but it's worth it. And that's where if I'm going to spend extra money, I'm going to
Mhm.
spend it in places that will make a difference in the long run, especially in large purchases.
Yeah, those kind of investments, those long-term investments, you need to go ahead and
Hmm.
pay up front money. It's very important. When you were talking about mistakes, I think the biggest mistake I made early in my marriage was not listening to my wife. And I started this business. I told her about the business I was going to start, and she said, "Don't do it." She said, "This is not going to work." And I said, "I'm going to do it anyway." And I invested, I think, $500 to start this business. Business was water walkers. You put them in your shoe, and they're the water. You remember those?
I remember.
I invested $500 to be
Oh, we're using
yeah, I had them all over the house. I mean, for
yeah.
decades, could get rid of those things. But I
For
thought they were the
those
best thing.
listening, this was what are those? Not the fleet feet, but the super feet. So now they have the super feet that you can buy. But
Uh-huh.
before super feet, there was water feet, or what was it called?
Yeah, those things are called water walkers. And if you're on your
Oh
feet for long
God.
periods of time, but a lot of people didn't buy, they didn't want that. And the price point that I was selling them for, they were like, I don't want that. I couldn't give
What are
those
you
things
selling
away.
it for?
I forget what I was selling them for, but I could not give them away. But I thought they were the best thing. Ardella said, no, don't do it. And I learned, I said, when you can't convince your spouse to do something, that is a sign that you need to go back, get a little bit more information, do a bit more research. If you can't convince them, just don't do it. You're going to save yourself a lot of headaches and pain. That was a
Yes.
lesson I learned the hard way. So whenever I take something to Ardella and she says no, and I can't convince her, and I really want to do it, I step back from it and say, no, I'm not going to do it because it's not making sense to her. If it don't make sense to her, I'm
Yes.
missing something. But that was a
Yes.
lesson I learned the hard way. The water walkers trying to have my own little business, my little side hustle. Didn't work out. Lost money. That $500 gone.
Yes.
Okay, I want to wrap it up. Last question here.
Hmm.
Can you share some of your financial goals in your terms of how you think in terms of where you are now, where you would like to be in the next 5, 10 years, your goals, uh, retirement things? What does that look like for you? Or do you even think about those kind of things? Where's your mindset right there?
Well, one of the things I want to do is to make sure that I'm financially stable um, for my children, because I'm realizing that it's very difficult for. I live in California, for those that don't know, and it's extremely expensive. And so, if you can, and I guess even Alabama has gotten to the point where it's expensive. So, being able to have a home that I can live in or my children can live in, that's very important to me because I've seen people that in their latter years and they're trying to still figure out how they're going to live off of whatever money they have, and the big price tags you have are going to be your medical costs and your housing. If you have those taken care of, then the rest is really kind of manageable. And so I so I think I'm going to, stick with living in Alabama. So I'm going to make sure that I keep the house in California for the girls, make sure they're good. They can figure out how to survive in California. But my goal is to be able to pay off my house in Alabama, work long enough to do that, save up enough money so that I can be comfortable, because I feel like Alabama has a lower cost of living, an easier life, and just making sure that I'm not, getting into debt that's unnecessary. And again, like I mentioned earlier, and participating in ESPP that my company has, like whatever type of retirements, because I know that once you have like the basics taken care of, then you want to make sure that you're fully investing. And then after that, I'm going to enjoy life,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
tomorrow is not promised. I have my life insurance. I have all of that stuff so that everybody is taken care of. But I want to save up money so that I can enjoy retirement,
yeah.
and therefore, so I'm not going to get the big house. I'm going to stay small and then use whatever money I have to enjoy retirement,
Yeah, it's all
travel.
about experiences. I like that idea of wanting to experience life and enjoying your health. One of the things I took a class from the Regional Conference of Seventh Day Adventists online for pre-retirement. Amazing class. It goes
Hmm.
through preparing yourself financially, health-wise, where you need to be health-wise, making sure you got your
Hmm.
insurances in place.
Hmm.
One of the things you really need to do is get a will. You really need to have a will in
Yes.
place because you own stuff. When you own stuff and you pass and you haven't said anything, there's going to be some drama. I guarantee drama is going to show up. So get a will in place. Let people know what you have,
Hmm.
what's going to happen to it while you're here. So there's no drama. They already know. Here's the will. They've read it.
Right.
Do that. The other thing that I'd like to express for my mindset is that when we look at retirement, and I don't like to use the word retirement, I use the word redirect. Because if you find something, work that you love to do, and you can do it in 50s, 60s, 70s, and it brings you joy and income, why not? Just do it,
Hmm.
you know? Uh, I think sitting around doing nothing, just I finally retired, I'm just gonna watch TV, go fishing. And to me, with the gifts, and when I think about stewardship of time and wanting to sow back into your grandkids, you want to be doing something meaningful, something that's
Hmm.
fulfilling. So think about all the gifts that you have right now and how can
Hmm.
I leverage that into something that maybe is not as demanding as a full-time, but something where it's fulfilling. So I'm doing
Right.
something where it really impacts that next generation. And that's kind of like the whole idea of stewardshipwealth.com. I feel like this is something, financial literacy is something you can share with people all over to impact their
Right.
lives and make a difference. A lot of the stuff I didn't know coming up, my parents didn't really leave us anything. The only thing they left us was faith. They said, you could do it. You trust in God. God will take you through. But I think there's a little bit more than that.
Yes.
In life, I think it takes a lot, like you said, it takes money. And it takes a lot of money to do the things
Hmm.
that you want to do. And when you have money, you have options. When you
Yes.
don't have money, you don't have any options. And I think if you want to live a fulfilling life, it's better to have options so you're doing the things that you have gifts and abilities to do. And I'm sure, Kia, you're going to be able to do all the things that you want to do based on your gifts and abilities. God is not through with you yet. He has a lot for you to do. Your world is just beginning. Once
Thank
you
you.
really get to where you said everything is set, now you can really think
And
about,
I think the other thing I would say when I'm talking about like my girls and everything, I
yeah.
want to set myself up so that I'm not a burden to them, because
Mhm.
I've seen it where parents don't make good decisions and now their children are having to rearrange their lives so that they can then take care of their parents. And then we're not talking about, health wise, but just overall, like they didn't save up enough and whatever retirement didn't cover things. So I want to make sure that I am going to be set, because I want to be able to help them. Like you said, helping the next generation, helping my children's children. And so that's part of what I want to be able to do, is to be able to enjoy my life, not be a burden to them, not have to work till I'm very old, and then hopefully even be able to give to them and to their children. And if
Yeah,
I've
that's a
done that,
good.
then I think my time on earth was well spent.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, listen, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you
Okay.
again for your presence. We'll probably be getting you back on the show again, sharing
Okay.
your journey as you continue to move forward. Again, thank you so much. Have a great
Thank
day.
you. Thank you. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.